Okay, take two because that's was on mute. Okay, hello everyone who's watching this and the replay. So happy lunar year to everyone, and it's been a while since our last broadcast. And today, we will be doing another interview with a good friend of mine. So she's based in the Philippines. I'm going to do her proper intro later, but. Welcome to this channel. You're watching Frame 316 Media. So part of what we're doing here is we are helping brands tell better stories. So through the videos that we regularly upload, at least once a week, we create the video content that would help entrepreneurs, leaders, brand owners to learn and grow their business using storytelling, specifically on video. So I'm gonna introduce my guest for today, and I'll just pull up her super detailed bio. Okay, she's on the backstage now, and she's watching with us. So our guest is a social entrepreneur and social innovation consultant. She plays an active role in the local startup and social enterprise ecosystem in the Philippines, working with accelerators, investors, foundations, and government agencies. She has designed and implemented policy program for CSR, startup entrepreneurship, and social innovation. As a strong advocate for sustainability and social enterprise, she started Collabox. It's a platform for venture building and collaborations for the SDGs, from curated learning sessions to gift boxes and impact projects. Collabox teams up with fellow local changemakers to raise awareness. For example, launching My Soul briefcase during this period and focuses on making mental health care accessible through self-therapy cards. And as an ecosystem builder and connector, she continues to engage with students, professionals, and entrepreneurs through various programs. So I'm gonna bring in my good friend from Cebu, Miss April Ong Vano. Is it the first time that I'm gonna be pronouncing your name, surname? Hello, April. Hello.
New Year.
Did I pronounce your surname correctly?
Yes, Ong Vano. Thank you for
It
not
has to
disturbing it.
has to be complete, right? Ong Vano, right? So how
Yes,
are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm good. Here in Cebu, as you mentioned, sending love from Cebu, Philippines, and happy Lunar New Year. We had some Peking duck last night for dinner. I hope everybody was also able to, do their own celebration at home, of course. Here in the Philippines, everybody is still mostly staying at home. I'm not sure how it is over there in Singapore, but I'm sure, the Lunar New Year celebrations are also quite big usually.
Yeah, but I heard they closed, they restricted access to China. So Chinatown is like the heart of the Chinese culture here in Singapore. So usually people would really gather, buy stuff. There's fireworks, so a lot of events there. But this year
Yeah, the
they,
fireworks. I miss the
yeah,
fireworks. And
shut it down. So you visited Singapore a few times, right? Before.
yes, a few times. The last time I was there was when we also caught up in a project together with tech startups from the Philippines, going to Singapore and exploring the startup incubators and programs over there. So that was fun. I think that
That,
was
that was
back
like 10 years
in
ago, right?
feels like it.
Yeah, it feels like
2020
that.
felt like 10 years. So right about right about
Yeah,
that.
I mean, a lot has happened during those 10 years, and we learn how to survive in the constraints of our, new office model, which is just practically our home,
Mhm.
right? So
Yes.
yeah, so let's jump in, and you're very busy with Colabox, right? You're doing a lot of like IG live videos. I notice keep tagging me. So, can you share to those watching what Collabox is all about?
Of course. As mentioned by Robert earlier, I started the social enterprise Collabox as a collaborative platform for social innovation and social enterprises. So we're really trying to advocate and amplify the causes of these different social entrepreneurs or the enterprises themselves. So we started off as a curation gift box, a curated gift box rather, wherein we really put together some products from different parts of the Philippines, coming from partners, the social enterprise partners that we've been working with for the last few years. So from chocolates, homegrown chocolates and coffee to handmade goods, we curate them as gifts and giveaways. But also, we do a lot of giving back projects. So we work with organizations also who want to give back to the community through fundraising. So it's really more of a collaborative effort and really trying to connect more people and brands to these kinds of social innovators. Because there's actually quite a number of them here in the Philippines. I'm proud to say that and share that we have a lot to discover and explore. So I'm really happy and thankful, Robert, that you're giving this platform for us to share also about what we do.
Yeah, so thank you for that. One thing about YouTube is that once you create a video, it stays there, and you just let YouTube do its thing, and you would be surprised. Like my channel is not really that big, but you would be surprised with the connections that I was able to make, because of a video that I did like months ago. So
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that yeah, this episode that we're doing right now will go a long way. Thank you for sharing about Collabox. Collabox is a brand, right? And
Yeah.
behind that brand, as I learned working from you, it's all about the sustainable development goals, right? Can you give everyone like a quick crash course on what an SDG is and why should people care about this in the first place?
Okay. Yeah, I think the SDGs would actually need an entire episode or another conversation altogether. But as a gist, right? I've been an advocate for the global goals when I was also a student. Youth advocate, and as an entrepreneur, it's transformed and also been really put into action through my social enterprise. So, what is the global goals or sustainable development goals? These are actually 17 goals set out by different countries around the world by the United Nations as our vision for the world. How do we want to transform and change the world for the better? So these are 17 goals. From achieving zero poverty and zero hunger. To really addressing climate change and achieving gender equality. So these goals, hit different pillars or hit different areas that really need more, what do you call this, strengthening and support from different parts of society. So I think, with your question, why is it important? I think it's important for us personally to get to know these goals as well. Not just the UN, not just nonprofits or organizations working in sustainability, but I think this is the time, especially now, is the time for all of us to take part in achieving those goals together. So hopefully we can do that, through simple steps, through our collaborations also in Collabox.
Yeah, that was a very quick crash course. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
I'm
very
working with you
difficult
on
to
the
do.
back end. We're creating this channel, right? So to really bring in more people in this conversation, because this is something that hopefully right now it's a conversation that we can do something about. And let's not wait for the time where we can just talk about it and not do anything about it, right? Because sustainable development goals, as I understand, is something that requires action. And
Yes, and we
if you
actually
don't do enough, you would reach to a point that you really can't do anything because the impact is irreversible. Am I correct?
Yes, and we actually have a timeline for this. The UN has set out the SDGs to be achieved, or at least the goals we set under those goals to be achieved by 2030. So that's, this is the decade. This is the final decade, 2021 to 2030. It's very crucial that
Hmm.
we really try to move forward towards our goals. And there have been, a lot of setbacks actually the past year, given, you know, the challenges brought about by the global pandemic has sort of pushed us back, unfortunately. But I think, that's then it calls us to even take action that are much more bold
Yep.
and really really trying to make this a priority.
Yeah, I think that's the keyword, priority, because one thing that the pandemic did for us is it turned our priorities upside. There's a
Yes.
lot of plans that we have on the pipeline, right? We want to go here, we want to visit this place, yeah, and we ended up
Mhm.
just what do you call this? Going from our kitchen to our living room, back to our bedroom, then back to our living room, and then to our kitchen, like for a good 6 months at least, during the lockdown. But
More for us here
yeah,
in the Philippines, it's like almost a year now.
yeah, don't tell me I'm gonna be sad hearing that. Anyway, so in this SDG conversation, it's all about uh, inspiration. It's all about change. It's all about being, proactive and not just taking the backseat and observing, right? And my channel is all about storytelling, and you as a brand, I'm quite sure you have explored a lot of this in what you have been doing previously. Maybe you're not aware, even before working with me, that you have been telling stories in multiple platforms. So why do you think storytelling as a tool, it can be a good tool, to inspire people to desire change in general, not necessarily laser focusing on SDG as a topic of telling stories, but
Mhm.
in general, why do you think telling stories is something good that can help inspire people to desire change?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has something to do with the connection you create when it comes to storytelling. And like you said, even if it's not related to the advocacy or pushing or promoting sustainability and action, I think for everybody, when we hear stories from whether it's from a friend or even in your space, also in marketing and advertising, I think what captures people's attention, people's heart, and that connection you make from the with the story that is being told allows you to really I guess be empathize and be part of that story, so you'd actually want to do something, whether you want to be part of that story, you want to there's a reaction, there is there's even emotion sometimes. Some stories will bring you to tears, some stories will make you laugh, and as humans that's actually very powerful. And when you do that and it is connected to some call to action, then that's where the power lies. And a lot of movements actually started with one story being told, one challenge being posed. So yeah, I think it's a very powerful tool, and there are many ways you can do storytelling. Right, of course, for you at Frame 316, you do very well, especially with multimedia and video. But any kind of storytelling. I mean, if I may, Robert, share with you, the backstory of how I started this advocacy that turned into a social enterprise. Collabox was actually my way of storytelling to my friends and loved ones about social enterprise, because that was just my personal interest. How some people love sports or fashion and all these things, and they tell others about it. So through Collabox, or through that box of social enterprise products, it was an opportunity for me to tell people, oh, these are the brands I really like, or have you tried this, coffee or chocolate or tea that's actually homegrown in different parts of the country. So it opens up that conversation and sharing of interest with my friends, and that was actually the aha moment for me also to start my enterprise.
What was that sound?
Yeah,
I thought I heard a
there
bell.
is a bell. Well, I'm at home, so if the bell rings, that means we have either, you know, food or I don't know something being delivered. Not sure. I
Oh,
don't think
really?
we have visitors.
Okay. So, yeah, that's news to me. I think that's the first time I heard about you on the context of Collabox as a means of you telling stories, and that's really interesting. And I think a lot of brands, no matter how big or how small they are, it started from that one person who was effective in his way of telling his story, that I want to do this, right?
Mhm.
I had something in my mind right now. I have something in my heart and I want to do this. Are you willing to listen to me? Something like that. And then it just grows. So I think part of the growth of every brand, every advocacy is how is that story being told, right? And
Mhm.
talking about story, not all stories are good. Do you agree? So there are
Mhm.
stories that we can't avoid hearing, but it's really, it doesn't make you feel good to hear um, of other stories. And if I were to ask you today, what do you think is the story of our world right now and what needs to change?
Okay, I'm happy, or it's nice how you kind of gave a little bit of you primed that question that way, so that my answer wouldn't sound like so bad, I guess. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say we're in the middle of, if we were, the this is our story, right? The world story. We're in a chapter wherein it's not necessarily the greatest, most exciting part of the story. I mean, I guess it goes without saying that there is really a lot of um, problems and challenges faced, not just globally as as countries, or like the big picture problems of this pandemic, but personally as well. Individuals, every human being has been greatly affected, and this is really that turning point in our story wherein that grief, that fear, and I suppose that um, I would say in the plot line. I'm not sure how it's really officially called when you're like drawing up these stories. um, it's a turning point wherein us, as the protagonist or the hero of our own stories, are called to really make bold decisions. It's a time for us to it's we're at a crossroads. We need to choose one way or the other way, and that could come into terms like personal decisions, right? From, am I going to stay home? Do I get to keep my job, work from home? Those personal stories, to the bigger stories in terms of how we change different policies. How do we make sure that, access to healthcare is being prioritized? Those kinds of decisions. So this is the time, or this is in the timeline of the story, or the big story of the world. There's a lot of decision making to make. We have yeah, we have that responsibility to be making bold decisions moving forward.
So these pool decisions that you're talking about, is this limited only to a certain group of people or as individuals? Like, hello, hashtag quote government? Or does it involve, mortal beings like us?
I mean, I mentioned it earlier. This is the story of the world. This is everyone's story, and we have been affected. From like what you said, like nationally, like each country. tackling or battling this, on their own or in our own different ways, and individually as mortal beings, as you mentioned. It's our shared humanity that is being challenged. And yeah, I guess to your question, it's yes, we need to have everybody, right, to respond to this. This is not simply the role, of course, hashtag government or hashtag big corporates or, hashtag leaders. Definitely, this is the time for them to really step up and really, make those bold moves, as I mentioned earlier. But we cannot simply depend on these larger institutions. I think this is where the conversation and the story changes as well when it comes to sustainability. Because sometimes sustainability becomes very, I don't know, sometimes academic, political, it's up there. And sometimes people aren't able to digest it and, you know, feel like they can be part of that conversation. So I hope that changes. And I hope that with what we do in terms of engaging more people, whether you are, a young person, a student, or a young professional, a manager in your company, working for government or working for a nonprofit, like everybody has a role to play. And I think that has to be the way for all of us to actually achieve those goals, the 17 goals. It can't be just one person or one institution working towards it.
I was actually waiting for you to mention like creatives, like myself. Uh,
Yes.
for people like us, we have a very limited span of attention, so we are very biased in terms of determining if some conversations are worth staying, worth listening, because
Mhm.
we claim our group, the creative group, claims that anything that we don't understand, we label it as boring, but I think from the conversations that we had personally in what we're doing for Collabox is, I think I mentioned to you, I'm one of that specific group of people that would really need to be inspired, because once we are in that zone and we realize that a small infographic, a short video that we can do, can go a long way and really inform people, right, about what's
Yes.
happening and what needs to be done, and who will be impacted. If you're gonna do something or if you won't do anything, right? It's that media. And talking about that, what do you think for brands and organizations who are involved in this sustainable development? When I say involved, they are aware, they're doing projects, they're doing campaigns, like something like Collabox and our partners in the Philippines. Uh, what do you think needs to be done, in terms of informing more people using platforms like social media, YouTube, TikTok, even TikTok? What do you think? I mean, the practical thing that people can do after watching this, because I don't think it would require you to really dedicate months and months of study, to understand SDG and figure out what you can do. I think basically pinpointing one
Mhm.
SDG that's related to what you're doing, you can do something about it. So on our end, as part of Colabox, for example, what do you think brands like Colabox needs to do to make this, the process of amplifying that message and using social media, for example, so that more people will be informed? So this is you are on the spotlight to preach to fellow brands, fellow organizations for not utilizing YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those platforms that they're not, they're barely using it when in
Right.
fact they have huge message to share, right? So what do you think needs to be done?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to address what you just said in two sections, if that's okay. First off, with what you said about the creatives, right? People like you, the creative industry, the people who are actually the one, your role is storytelling, in different kinds of media, right? So
Yep.
that's actually a very powerful role. whether it's about promoting sustainability or really selling a product, your client's product, for example, communication has been, that main channel or that tool that connects a brand to its customers. And I think you should not, like, if I may talk to other creatives that might be watching your channel, like, you have the power. You actually, we actually need you. The people in the creative sector has this, amazing, I would say, that amazing mind or that inspired, creativity that can actually create that kind of connection that we're looking for. What I was saying earlier, how do you either simplify or make it more personal for people to understand and actually take action towards sustainability? And I think that's your, secret sauce that, everybody can actually use. And we'd love to be working with people like you, more people like you, which connects me to, the second part of my response, that is, you need to connect, or we need to connect creatives or communicators to more of social entrepreneurs or more brands that are making a difference, companies, small businesses, nonprofits that are in the space of, doing the groundwork of sustainable development. There's actually a lot of work being done already, and amplifying these stories will allow people to learn from these organizations, be inspired by them, so they would also want to do it. And of course, like you said, connecting with their brand or connecting to their advocacy, more people would want to join them or support them along the way. So uh, I would say for those brands or those, let's say, organizations that are still adjusting also to, multimedia, especially now, because a lot of people are simply on their devices most of the time. Uh, Whether we like it or not, this is how people are connecting with each other. So we need to step up. The people or the organizations that are working on sustainability, NGOs, social entrepreneurs, and innovators on the ground. Let's highlight your stories. Let's tell people on TikTok or Instagram, YouTube, so that you get that support as well. And action, of course, it's the digital space, but we have seen it. It has been tried and tested that the virtual world does translate to the real world. Action can be incited and inspired through these like multimedia channels. So it's right about time that more of these movements are being talked about, shared, and actually getting more people involved.
Which is in general, it's really good, right? I think, but the bigger call to action is after you're informed, what can you do, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's a combination of getting as much people to talk about it, and in a
Mhm.
louder way, and
Yeah.
having that sense of clarity, because I've seen really amazing videos. Production was really good, but it would leave you somewhere like in a confused, state, because what do you want me to do after watching that video? So it's more of really designing your storyline, right? If you're gonna talk
Mhm.
about why it's important that trees, we should be planting more trees now than the number of trees that we're cutting. Is what can you do if you're a student, right? Can you do
Yeah.
something, right?
I,
Or right, the call to action
yeah.
should be clear, correct?
Yes, I think also I would say, because it's really not just you know the call to action. Sometimes with some of these videos or stories, or social media content being put out there, it's like to buy something, right? um, if it were any other brand, so they're actually quite clear with their call to action, where to buy it, how to get it. So I think, if we're talking about like tips, or how to make it effective also for organizations who are pushing for call to action, whether it's supporting their advocacy or purchasing from sustainable brands, or inspiring people to take action on their own. That has to be clear also when you share these things online. It leaves we should leave no room for just, oh, I'm inspired and that's it.
Yes.
Like uh, it has to also inspire action, right? Like it has to. It might not be always a direct call to action. There are a lot of effective, I would say, content out there that can be more personal. Whether it's a change in lifestyle, it's actually tutorials, right? Like how to live
Yeah.
a zero waste life, or like right now, mental health is very important. So these kinds of informative and educational content is very important, and it allows the person to actually be more aware and have a deeper understanding of these different causes, or challenges. Because like you mentioned just now about trees, yes, we can plant trees, we need to plant more trees, but did you know that we really need to take care of our existing forests, right? Like we need to nurture and sustain existing trees, because planting new trees will take quite a long time or more time, right, to actually grow and reforest. But our existing forest lands, these are the ones that we need to be really aggressive to be to be protected, and and allow it to thrive, because that's already our source of protection or oxygen, and all the benefits of having our healthy forests. So these little things, we add layers to it, and I think media is a great way for us to educate more people, and they learn more. And I think that that's great now that we have all these platforms, because you can learn about almost anything with just you just type a topic, and then it can pop up on your screen.
Yeah, and exactly as you were sharing it, like this specific YouTube video episode, I can even repurpose, create smaller chunks of videos out of this episode and really share it out there.
Yeah.
And, it shows in the way you talk about what you're doing. And I think there's no question that, you believe that change will happen, right?
Hmm.
But
Make it
my
happen.
change will happen. But I think a more difficult difficult question to ask you is, why should people believe that change will happen? Because it's also general knowledge that apathy, right? Why should I care, right? As long as I get my paycheck, month to month, I mean, SDG, that's something that's too big for me. I mean, I only have one life. My average life would be 60 or 65. There's nothing I can do. Why bother? Because they think change is something that's not, achievable, not possible, especially in our generation. Can you share that specific reason why, the deeper why, so that people would, it's worth believing that change will happen? So this is your storytelling spotlight.
I mean, I think I will, not necessarily wear my hat as a social entrepreneur, Collabox and all. I think this is more of a personal question, I would say, which I hope more people will connect with. I think the reason why we should aspire for change and, want to be part of that change, it's actually also a selfish thing. You were just saying now, Robert, about okay, I'm just doing this, this is my life, I have to be responsible for my own my paycheck, how I live my life. I think if you really if you think of sustainability as part of your own, I would say, your own life's survival, um, it's actually very personal. It's something that we talk about sustainability for the future generations. I think that, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think that's a limited frame of mind, because sustainability is now. It's how we live our lives now. I mean, we are living through the effects or the impact um, of a pandemic that actually, stems from, you know, uh, a very unhealthy relationship we have with nature, right? We don't need to go, into detail with that, but the impact has been so great. It's global, but it's also personal because, hey, now I'm stuck at home. Now I can't go out and feel safe and do all those things that I love. But if we really, think about how, we take care of our environment, how we take care of, this is the place we call home, right? Like this is literally our home burning down, or getting torn into pieces. And that imagery, if you think about it and imagine it as your own personal home, then shouldn't you actually do something? Shouldn't we figure out different ways to change the direction we are going? Because it's time to turn things around. It's high time for us to understand that there are small decisions that we are making, at home, with our family, with our friends, at work, in our communities, that actually has also a global impact. So I think change is not necessarily something very uh, I would say, for people that can give so much, or it's an altruistic act, for people to endeavor, but it's actually also a selfish, a selfish, I would say, trigger to want change, because we all desire to have, a, a safe environment to live in. We want to be healthy and happy. It's all for our well-being. So since we need to understand that connection, then I would say you would be more encouraged to also do something. So I hope that's what people can start thinking when they hear sustainability, not just the big picture, or actually dropping a lot of numbers here and there, because sometimes that is overwhelming. That does make people feel like, okay, that's enough. I don't want to. I don't want anything to do with it. But when you think about sustainability more of how you can really create a better life for yourself and for your loved ones, then I think that becomes more of a personal take, and you become more responsible. So I hope that, I mean, that didn't come from my Collabox. I was gonna answer maybe something more about what we do as a social enterprise, but I think to really
From your
answer it,
Collabox PR machine.
no, but really, I think that's also the vision or the mission here, right? Like, how do we make people more involved, and not have that barrier for active or proactive um, action and support, and even telling others about it as well.
I mean, if I'm gonna be my sarcastic, annoying self, probably if they would change sustainability to survivability, probably more, more people would. Yeah, I mean, if you come to think of it, sustainability is just practically telling human beings that, hey, guys, we're close to the finish line. you know, we need to do something. The pollution, the way we behave, our education, our society. You know, these different areas of concern is practically telling human beings that we are on our way to extinction, right? So if someone can say, yeah, let's stop calling it sustainability and just call it survivability, probably more people would be. But I hope we don't reach to that point where it's gonna be yes or die. Like what we
Yeah,
see on the
I
movies,
don't think
right?
we. Yeah, I don't think it would also be a good idea to paint a very um,
Yeah,
doom and gloom picture of the future. We don't want our story to be an apocalyptic movie
scary.
or something. And perhaps that's where communication, media, and storytelling can come in, right? We are the author, right? We have the power to write down what will happen next. So the next chapter, like what I said earlier, 2021 is the start of the final decade, right? The 2021 to 2030 is like our going towards the finish line for those goals that we've set for
Mm.
ourselves. So, let's just create more um, characters, I would say, right? Like
Yeah.
if we try to use the you know symbolize more actors, literally a symbolism of a story, instead of just one superhero that we are trying to wait for to save the day. I think we have multiple actors. There are people that have different roles to play so that these goals, these challenges, and what we aspire for, what we envision for the world, can become a reality. So I think that's where the urgency comes in, that we need more people. Everybody needs to take action.
Yeah, I agree. And when it comes in practical point of view, when you think of it, there are really big entities, big brands, big groups, countries that were really successful, right? They
Mm.
stood up. They were willing to support this mission, as you would call it, and they were able to succeed. Those can be templates, right? It's
Yes.
also a matter of looking out and finding how they did it. What worked
Yeah.
for
Good.
them,
Good case
right?
practices. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
and
not.
that's
It's
where
not like we haven't done anything. There's
and that's where
already good.
and that's where
Sorry.
Collabox comes. That's where Collabox comes in, right? Collabox is like connecting the dots, bringing people together, bringing brands together, and uh, inspiring like people to work together, right, towards
Yes.
the SDGs, right?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, I shared earlier, the beginnings of the brand with the curated boxes featuring social innovations, right, or social enterprise products. But what we've been doing, in the last 2 years as well, is really bringing people together so that they can connect, they can also collaborate with each other. We've worked with companies that are looking for ways to have sustainable projects or collaborations with innovators on the ground. So it's a platform for us to have that sort of convergence of different disciplines, different industries, different sectors to come together, because there's also like, not I'm not saying that there's already a working template, but it's like there's already good case practices wherein you see that if there's more actors coming from various disciplines or different perspectives, their impact actually is much greater. And we should learn from that. We should learn that we cannot also just stick into our own bubbles and then, okay, let's try to create change in our own way. Right? I mean, that's still good, of course, that you want to make change, but and actually do something. But imagine if more people work together. Imagine if you pool in resources more efficiently and you have different actors filling certain gaps, then the impact towards whatever advocacy or whatever program and project that you're doing becomes more fruitful. So I mean, that's where we also come in as as a partner. Like I was gonna say partner in crime, but like we should call it differently. Partner in change making, I guess.
Yeah.
Is connecting these people.
Wow. Okay. I know I sent you a list of questions for this, right? But this is not part of the question. So, I would tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, that like once in your life, you're not really aware of all these things, right? Like all these
Mhm.
SDGs, all the things that you're doing now. I wanna put on spotlight, or I wanna highlight really the role of storytelling for to inspire people to work towards a better world. Do you remember, if there's um, a time in your life that you've heard this one story, or you watched this one story, or you've read this one story that really started your journey to, bring you where you are right now, to reach, to go as far as you have reached. I know you still have big dreams, for what you're doing right now, but do you remember that one story, one encounter that really inspired you? Because we keep talking about let's inspire, right? Yes, use story to inspire, but you are actually that, what do you call this? The proof. I mean, I was telling you, I mean, I am a proof that your story is convincing, right? Like I was, I'm part of what you're doing right now. I started to really jump in and be part of that. But do you remember that one time in your life where it's because of that story and now I'm here?
Well, I mean, that's a tricky question, I would say. That should have been part of the briefer. uh, I would say maybe going back to my younger self. I'm still young, but as a student, right? And I would say this isn't necessarily the main reason why I decided to go on this sort of path, because I did have my own dreams and career goals, somewhere in between. But I guess I would say that heart for, advocacy and development, right? Like, where did that start? And this goes back to when I was in high school, and I was a very active as a student leader, and we would actually, have these speakers come into, some leadership forum. And I can't really recall, when this was or exactly where, but I remember it was really about the environment also. It was like an you know, eco warriors, or like they were trying to get support from young people to become eco warriors. So the story of the people who were in that, what do you call this? It's not really a camp, but they actually trying to also do tree planting and nurturing and watershed protection here in Cebu. And these guys are like, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was interested in their work, like in terms of science and biology and all that stuff at that time. But I think the inspiration came from them telling the story of how it was really important for them to do something and get people to help them with their work. And the story of protecting the watersheds, how it's something that even beyond our own lifetime, this is going to be the source of water for generations to come. And they were very passionate about it. And that wasn't necessarily my first encounter for these kinds of projects, but I think hearing it from literal people on the ground, that they are the ones fighting for this and really trying to get more people involved, really inspired me to sort of it made me see the bigger picture of how with just a small group of people making taking action, and they're able to tell more people to join them. They get more volunteers all the time. And I have to check, because right now I haven't really checked in on them, but I'm sure like every year, or all the time, they're able to gather more and more volunteers. So I think with that personal, let's say, impact on me, it made me see that opportunity to also give back and become a volunteer. So I think my story comes from being active, volunteering for different causes. And from there, that's again another maybe another time to share. But it trickled down to the kind of opportunities, the kind of projects that I was able to work with along the way as a volunteer. And here I am, right? So working with various organizations that have their own causes, have their own you know army of volunteers, and more people getting involved. So I think it's that sort of power, like you have one leader or one person that has a ripple effect on others to also take action. And I think that stays as a source of inspiration, that no matter how small, you think what you're doing is, it actually has a ripple effect. Because I don't think that we call kuya, right? Like uh, the the person who is doing these projects even realize that, they've also inspired more volunteers or more people to also do these kinds of work. Oh, I can't hear you, Robert. I think.
Sorry. Okay. So thank you for that. And I want to jump into something that's because you talk about the possibility or the need for people to really involve themselves, right? Be part of the conversation. And while we're on that, I want to just talk about a very practical, tactical, and practical way
Mhm.
for people who's watching this and suddenly decided to be part of that conversation, or brands who are already doing this but they don't know what to do, because storytelling may come as a very professional, very structured way of designing content, creating content for marketing, when in fact you can start doing it, even if you don't have a marketing team, even if you don't have videographers. It's just having that mindset of documenting whatever you guys are doing right now, and talking about what goes on in your mind while you're doing that, right? And then just throw questions to people who are with you while you're doing it. Let's say you're on a volunteer on a mission, you just talk and document, right? And say, hey, we're on our way, to this small village. We're actually excited to meet the people, and we're bringing all this stuff because we've heard they need this. So that, I mean, as simple as those, candid way of telling stories is
Mhm.
very useful. It can go a long way, and it just requires you to document. Not being lazy. And then, I mean, I think all cameras of all smartphones of all volunteers around the world have cameras, right? And have a good microphone, so you can start doing it. And you don't need to decide on how much budget are we going to spend to teach our people to learn to tell stories. Do we need to enroll our people in an institution? Do we need to hire Robert to train us? No, you just start documenting. Storytelling has been around even before technology, right? Like,
Yes, I was just gonna say that. Like, I think storytelling is a natural way to really amplify your message. And before, maybe it was like newspapers or flyers and all these things.
sign
Or even
language,
like,
if you believe in
you know,
cavemen, right? They write on
or
stones, right?
banners. Yes. So, those are different ways of communicating to people. And I mean, I'm not sure. Are you asking me if, what can they do, like as a starting point maybe, or?
Yeah, for some, because you are, yeah, that can be as a question also, because you are a brand, right? What did you do, How did you
Yes.
start slowly shifting to this, aside from working with a genius on the back end? What did you do?
Yeah, no, I mean, way back when this was just a side project, I had my day job. I was also busy myself doing other things, and this was a passion project that I really wanted to put out there. Facebook and Instagram was a way to just share it also, and take photos, and tell the story behind those photos as well. I mean, to be honest, I have to say I wasn't as proactive in documenting. Like, I'm not saying I was lazy. It was just maybe, again, I didn't really think of it initially as, something that I needed to do. But, I'm glad that I did, document a few things. But I think starting off when, really trying to build the brand in the early days, um, it was really important for us to really align, with the mission and the vision that I had for Collabox. And with that kind of sort of, how do you call it? challenge, right? Like, how do we do this? I also don't really have that much technical expertise. I'm not really in, in communications and, social media, etc. It was actually just simple personal storytelling at first, like on my personal page, because that was how it started anyway as a brand. But later on, obviously, trying to use, I would say, smaller tactics, I would say, like, if it's really just asking one of our partners to say a little bit about their story and then posting that as well. Nothing fancy, but really just saying, okay, this enterprise comes from this part of the Philippines, and this is what they're doing, and this is how you can help. So it was just that simple. But, seeing how social media, communications, and all these digital platforms have become such a trend for almost everything. I mean, even government is, already mainly online as well in terms of connecting with people. Um, I saw it as, a necessity, right? So it's something that you need to make a decision, from the get-go, that if you really want more people to learn about what you do, then you have to talk about it, then you have to share it, then you have to really find the different channels to connect to those people you want to, um, advocate to, or get more support from. So whether it's through, like a more professional way of, getting people to do it, if you have the capacity, then that's great. But it shouldn't be, a limitation for you to be able to connect, because I think the challenge for some organizations, doing, the wonderful work they are doing, nobody knows about it. So that's the sad and unfortunate, um, case that for many, grassroots projects, for example. So that's actually a gap that needs to be filled. So hopefully now's the time more people are able to, see and discover those stories, and that's actually part of our mission, in Collabox. We're trying to find out more and hopefully be the ones to connect them or bring them, to these platforms as well.
Which Collabox is doing a really good job, considering that Collabox is not a big empire
Yeah, we
level
don't, we don't have
brand.
a marketing team or anything. We have friends like
Yeah,
Robert and talented people that actually share their insight about, if I may, like a practical tip, right? A practical tip for organizations is, find people with those skills that you can collaborate with, whether, if that person decides to do it voluntarily, or it's a certain way that it becomes a win-win situation. If they resonate with the cause or the story you want to tell, I'm sure there's a way for you to work together and find out how you can also produce these kinds of, um, you know these materials. So I think that's also one practical way, like call a friend, find a friend, and
yeah,
learn. And there's so much you can also learn online. Learn from Robert. Your channel teaches people how to, make videos. So,
yes,
um, those are small steps, for you to get started. But of course, like for other organizations that might have the capacity, have the budget, and the people, to do all these things, then the question is now, like, what stories are you willing to tell, or
yeah.
what are these stories you want to put out there, and hopefully you decide, or you are, intentional to also share what kind of, you know good and positive impact, your organization is making.
Okay, that was a really insightful conversation with April from Colabax. Now a name, soon a legend. I like that call a friend, then call a box.
I
We
should
should
use
find,
that, call a friend.
yeah, we should find a way to use that call a friend, and and related to Collabox because that sounds very, witty. Okay. Anyway, I understand, and I mean, there's a lot of call to actions to what you were have been talking about, for the past hour or so. But I want to give you, towards the end of our session today, I want to give you this time to really share a very specific call to action, that you want to share. As I've mentioned, that this video will be watched on replay, and I'm still gonna be doing a lot of SEO on this video even after we're done on our live stream. Like for all my other live streams, it's still being watched. Like I've done it months ago, but it's still being shared by YouTube, the algorithm. So, what would be your specific, call to action?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm inviting everyone right now. Really, like I'm inviting everyone, of course, to connect with us with Collabox. We are on different social media, of course. I hope, Robert, you'll be sharing those details as well later on. But it's
Yep.
collabox.co on our
Mm-hmm.
website, and connecting with us. As I said, really, there are three things that we want people to be able to do or collaborate with us. It's really through our gifting, our meaningful gifts. So if you need anything to, share with your loved ones, to gift to people, and share some wonderful, goodies, right? You're able to discover or share different products from around the Philippines with Collabox Gifts. And if you're a brand or an organization also looking for giveaways, so that's something also that we do very quite often. And we partner with different organizations and align it as well with their own advocacy, so that we're able to curate something special for your partners, your employees, or other stakeholders through meaningful giveaways. And finally, of course, giving back. So we create different collaborative projects on how organizations or even individuals can give back to the community. So we help brainstorm with you, we create these projects together with you, so that's something you can also put out there. But we also try to really connect people to work together. So if you are looking for partners, you are curious about social entrepreneurship in the Philippines, if you're looking for an advocacy to support across the SDGs, then you can definitely connect with us. So from gifts, giveaways, and giving back, I hope you connect with us, and I hope we can collaborate.
Yeah, and you should watch out for the other big stuff that Colabox is doing, and it's still on its way to growing and finding different ways to influence people who believes that change can still happen, right? And uh, those you should check out the website. Those gifts are really amazing. I have a few of the boxes, for example. Reminding you, April, I haven't sent that back, those boxes yet, because you tell me where to send that. Anyway, so thank you for taking this time. I know you're a very busy entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur. Thank you for taking this time. Although we talk a lot and it's not live stream, you should start doing live stream sessions of our candid chats, right? That other people can learn from those sessions. Anyway,
Definitely.
so thank you, April. I'm just gonna close the episode. Stay there and don't leave. Okay, we're just gonna be wrapping up the episode for today. So thank you,
Thank you so
everyone,
much, Robert, and thank
and
you,
thank you,
everyone.
April. Yes, those who are watching this on replay and who stayed with us. Thank you, and I hope you've learned a few things from what we discussed. And sustainability, storytelling, when combined, would definitely lead us closer to a better world. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel, Frame 360 Media. We do a lot of videos that will help you tell your stories better using videos, design, social media, and a lot of those marketing stunts that you need to do. So, watch out for our upcoming episode. this week in the next few days, and we'll update you for our next live stream session. So again, thank you for watching.